On the podcast today, we are going to speak about chapter 63 of the Tao Te Ching, which makes up the 63rd episode of the 81 meditations on the Tao Te Ching. And as usual, Guang will read Jia Fu Feng and Jane English's translation, and I will read Derek Lin's translation.
Practice non-action, work without doing. Taste the tasteless, magnify the small, increase the few. Reward bitterness with care. See simplicity in the complicated. Achieve greatness in small things. In the universe, the difficult things are done as though they were easy. In the universe, great acts are made up of small deeds. The wise do not attempt anything very big, and thus achieve greatness. Easy promises make for little trust. Taking things lightly results in great difficulty. Because the wise always confront difficulties, they never experience them.
Act without action, manage without meddling, taste without tasting, great, small, many, few, respond to hatred with virtue, plan difficult tasks through the simplest tasks, achieve large tasks through the smallest tasks. The difficult tasks of the world must be handled through the simple tasks. The large tasks of the world must be handled through the small tasks. Therefore, sages never attempt great deeds all through life. Thus they can achieve greatness. One who makes promises lightly must deserve little trust. One who sees many easy tasks must encounter much difficulty. Therefore sages regard things as difficult, so they never encounter difficulties all through life. So in chapter 63, we're coming back to Wu Wei, as we usually do throughout the Tao Te Ching. And in this one, it goes more into detail about Wu Wei and about how we can kind of apply it to our own lives. It's more of a practical approach in chapter 63.
Yeah, it almost sounds like a manual to Wu Wei, right? To practice in our daily life almost. Derek Lin's translation in this case is a bit more descriptive in that way, I think. Again, like we can come up with the saying of begins with the 10,000 steps begins with one step, right? So, that is the basic promises of this chapter. But obviously it goes deeper because Wu Wei is not just talking about attacking a task and how to complete a task, right? So in a grand scheme of this chapter is more so to be how to be completely at presence in all details in that moment that you are in. For example, if you were to attack a task in a daily life, you from being completely at present in that moment, you get to see what needs to be done first. Then becomes usually what most the simplest thing and the easiest task, right? So again, in this chapter, talking about the biggest things begin from the smallest thing, and again, also it works like again the magnify the small, increase the few. So you can magnify small things as a big thing, and the few is actually a lot like this. You can also understand it that way.
That's right. So great things that we achieve in life are usually a multitude of very small things that accumulate to create great things, right? I can attest to this as a writer, that publishing a book, it takes a long time and a lot of study in some sense, a lot of years, and a lot of sort of gestating on the ideas and the concepts, and then it slowly comes to fruition. Where a lot of people think a writer is like sitting around at a coffee shop. You and I are sitting at a coffee shop, just writing a few things down here and there, sipping our coffee, having a good time. That's actually not how it is. Usually, I can speak to being a writer, you spend a lot of time on your own. And then all of that time spent on your own are all of these small steps towards something much greater. Yes. And a lot of the time, you don't even have the intention of making a book, right? It's usually just a byproduct of maybe the books you read, the process of life that you've lived, and the experiences that you've had that leads you into writing a good book. And so most great things are attained by many, many small steps, many, many small experiences. And that's with anything. And so I think that people have the wrong starting spot when they want to achieve something. They think in too much grandeur, like they think in a very grand way that, I want to accomplish this. And it's like, well, that's all well and good, but you need to start here. How can you make this if you haven't started here? And so there's all of these incremental steps to create something beautiful.
That's right. Is there something to achieve? You need to have a goal, right? You need to set the goal. And again, nothing wrong with having a goal, but the problem is you get attached to the goal itself too much, right? You are imagining too far ahead and how the end product is gonna look like, right? Then you become like obsessed with the results first before you even put any work in, right? So that's usually how the mistake begins. Then the process becomes very like laborious, and you feel very agitated because the results most of time the results don't come quick enough or easy enough, right? But most cases you need to really put the work in, and you gotta be very patient, right? Again, that's what the beauty of being in a state of wu wei. Being patient, even actually without thinking about being patient, right? You are just like, again, how the nature works. You just, when it will happen when time comes, right? Well, the thing is, we just don't know when that would be. We just need to be able to wait for that moment to come, right? So the same thing, you put the effort to achieve whatever you want to achieve. But actually, sometimes it's helpful to forget about the goal itself. And if you can enjoy the process, the moment, the present moment, and again, like you said, the small achievement, right? The small wins it has to lead to big wins, right?
Course, yeah.
That's always how it works. So if you enjoy achieving small wins, then big wins will follow, and you will have to trust that process. So that'll encourage you to stay on the path.
That's right. And in the chapter, when it's speaking about that, the guide for us here is to act without attachment. And so this is part of wu wei, right? Act without attachment, effortless action. So you're in the process of you are achieving all of these small things without intentionally doing so. It's a byproduct of your life. It's same as the story in the Bhagavad Gita with Krishna and Arjuna, because Arjuna didn't want to go into battle with these cousins, and Krishna said, you just have to fulfill the will of the divine, Tao, if you will, here, and that's just the process of life. You're not thinking about if you're going to win the war. You're not thinking about the outcome after the war. In the Bhagavad Gita, the teaching is nishkarma karma. So not being attached to the fruits of your action. And this is what this chapter is speaking about. If you're not attached to the fruits of your action, you'll accumulate all of these small wins, as you said. And you'll have this momentum in your life. And then things will happen for you. This is the Tao. But you have to get out of the way. It's always when we are in the way, our ego, that we want to achieve all of these great things, and we think that we can just by trying to do so, and then we end up falling over all the time. We don't know where to start. And so when your intention is pure and you are in harmony with just following the process of your own life without attachment to it, then a lot of these things just unfold. And that's the point of this chapter. That's how you actually live by the Tao, is to have that humility, embrace the small, embrace the lowly, and then these things will happen for you eventually. Yeah. But you can't have an intention also. It can't be contrived. I'm going to focus on the small so I can achieve the big. It's like, well, that's not really how it works. You have to be out of the way, and you have to actually be dedicated to whatever that process is in your life, right? And so that's what will lead you to greater things in your life and to have a rich experience, because the Tao wants to express itself through you, but our ego acts as a dam and a river. And so we can't access the fundamental forces of the Tao as a consequence. And so the process for us is to understand this teaching of wu wei and essentially get out of our way and allow the Tao to do us.
Yes. Yeah, so in Taoism, we can say Tao is sage, or in some the script like Bhagavad Gita, like enlightened man, enlightened person, liberated person. In Vedanta, the liberated person do not act as like a statement. But in our like a logical sense, like what do you mean? The liberated men don't act. Well, you walking is act, right? Action. Like eating is action, and breathing is action too. Like how is it possible? Yeah. So the meaning is exactly what the Krishna and Arjuna conversation in Bhagavad Gita and the teaching of Bhagavad Gita is that once you are acting without expecting any fruit, that is just pure. Your action is pure. Usually, again, karma is people understand as a cause and effect. It's not literally like that. Karma literally means action. So whatever you do is exactly what you do to yourself. So that is a cause and effect that people understand it that way. But if your intention is pure, if your action is pure, that you act without expecting anything from your own action, so that it becomes causeless cause. Action itself is the cause, but it's causeless. So you are free from karma, right? So that in that sense, people, in Vedanta, they say that the liberated men don't act pure because the action is pure. So in this case, it's the same. Wu-wei, effortless action, right? And you act without thinking of anything, without intention of achieving something. Just like how nature works, right? Like the waterfalls go down to the water stream, and season changes, all these things, it just naturally happens. And once we can embrace that quality of wu-wei, or the acting without any intention, then we become that force of the Tao, force of nature, so that our action naturally becomes pure, so that it's always going to be appropriate, and it's always going to be correct action in a way, without even intending to be, right? So that in that sense, you are moving as nature in a form of human body, so that the results will always be what it should be.
That's right. And that, as you were saying, with that pure intention, you're not thinking then of reward or punishment. Now, a lot of people will say, well, usually we think of reward, right? We want to get something from it. But there are some people actually who want to be punished for their actions too. So when you're in this field of reward and punishment, which unfortunately karma has been subjected to since it went to the West, then that way of thinking can't align you with the Tao, because you are wanting fruit from your action. You are not acting purely with the fundamental forces supporting you. It's an act of subjectivity, an act of self-interest. And okay, there are instances where you need to act self-interested in this and that. The Tao, again, loves and nourishes all, does not lord it over them. But if you want to achieve great things in life, or you want to live the best life that as you can possibly live, it's better to not act with a mentality of seeking reward or punishment, right? Obviously a reward outweighs punishment, but there are some people who want to be punished for their actions. Yeah, for whatever reason, right?
It's just more like a self-destructive
tendencies, right? So, but most people want a reward. I'm doing this so I get this in return. And look, that's all well and good at a 9-to-5 job. But it's not all well and good if you are trying to create something that has meaning and has lasting value. And so if you're a creative person in particular, like most creative types understand this concept. Those who are purely creative, right? Like, because they want to just create the best art possible. And if finances is a consequence of their actions, then, you know, that's up to the divine to decide, right? But your intention was to create the best art that you could. That was the intention. It's not that I'm going to create this piece of art so I get X amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Da Vinci wasn't creating art so he could get X amount of money. His art still lives on for us today because we don't know him personally, but like it seems that the beauty of his art was connected to something much deeper than just a monetary value. And that's why you see in the modern world, right, you see modern art is completely designed in general for money. And that's why it has no lasting value. So the number one song today will be completely forgotten 6 months from now, for example. And then you see people listening to music from 30, 40 years ago because those artists back then were creating art purely and money was only a consequence of their actions.
That's right.
But their intention was pure. But now you have like music studios and this and that, grooming people to become pop idols and this and that. And so it's all about money. It's not about the intention. Everyone's got to be careful about that with whatever they're creating and also notice if your intention is pure. You know?
Yes, a creative process can be very arduous and very long and frustrating at times. But that being part of the process, the great piece of art cannot be produced otherwise, right? That's where we need to understand it. Unfortunately, nowadays, we are very driven by material possessions, right? And money and wealth and influence over other people through social media, things like that. So that that is their intention. The creating something is just a tool for them to show off to the public, right?
That's right.
So that is why, as you mentioned, there is no pure sense of art these days, and we don't hardly ever see anyone who produced like a classics, right? Classic writing, music, and painting, and anything, right?
That's right.
So because it's all there's a different ulterior motive behind it. I want to get something from this, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and that is why we know that great musicians often lose their creativity once they get a large record deal, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Good evidence right there. So, yes, back in the day, Da Vinci was alive in medieval time. Those times that, of course, money was money, but money was more so to be used to survive, really, to buy their bread and shelter and the clothing and things like that.
Yep.
Whereas producing art, and that is motivated by curiosity of nature or trying to reveal the mystery of human life or the universe and that sort of imagination and things like that. The expression of that was much more valued and much more important for those people's life back in the day. So we can take a lot from their mentality.
That's right. Almost like there's not enough struggle in the world. So there's a lot more struggle in the world then. And it is funny though, isn't it? Like, as Charles Bukowski said, the starving artist is the one who usually creates the best art. The one with the full belly, it's a different story. Yes. And that's why you see musicians and that they make better music when they're younger, but then as they're older and they have all the money in the world, you kind of want to say to them, it's time to pull the pin, your best days are behind you. Yeah. But it's all well and good. But that's something for a lot of people to think about. Is your intention pure? Are you seeking a reward for this? And so if you want to align with Wu Wei, as it discusses in this chapter, we have to get out of our own way and allow things to run its course.
That's right. And I read this part that's saying that art of living is like knowing that our lives are a reflection of our quality of attention, where we give our attention to our lives, right? And most of times, that's the reflection of one's life, right? So, do you want to intend to create great piece of your life, or do you want to create just life full of just accumulating material possessions?
Yeah. Or are you saying you're interested in Taoism, for example, spirituality, but you don't focus a lot on it? You're off looking at Netflix, you're off looking at social media, you spend more time doing that than actually reading the great text, than studying and this and that. And we have, a bad tendency in the modern day because people are spiritually in competition with each other, which is a very bizarre thing that has happened in the modern day. But you see these people where they say they don't need to read books, they don't need to do this and that, but then you witness their life, and their life is completely chaotic. They sit on the couch all day, watch Netflix, their relationships are bad, they're commenting in a competitive manner on YouTube videos, and so forth and so on. And so often, like you said, where that attention is and where that focus is and that detail, that'll be the sum total of your life. You and I, what we do here is the sum total of our life, because all we do is this. Well, we don't podcast 24 hours a day, but we're studying the great knowledge. We abide by it. We love to share it with people. That's usually what you and I are talking about 99% of the time. And so this is a byproduct of our life, because your life is always the sum total of what you focus on.
That's right.
Where your attention and your intention is directed. And so a lot of people are not 100% sincere in a lot of the things that they do in their life, because they'll say one thing but do 10 other things.
Yes. Yeah, they say they are focused on something, but they're actually not.
They're not, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Because usually if someone's really focused on something, you'll see them night and day,
yes,
grafting away, focused on that. And then you'll see things happen for them, and then a lot of people get bitter. Oh, why are they in a situation that they are? And it's like, well, they worked hard at what they did. And their life is the sum total of the actions that they've taken.
That's right.
And their actions have been in a positive direction. They're focused on the small, and now they're accruing the great accomplishments as a result. Now, with everything that we've said, as it mentions in this chapter, we come back to the essential teaching of Wu-Wei, actually, which is not just non-doing, but it's also non-interference. It's also about allowing the world to run its course. And as we mentioned with the small and the big, when we are usually without attachment and we are just moving with the small processes of our life, great things eventually happen. Not through interference, not through forcing your mentality upon anyone, but just by following the process of your life, right? So we live in a world today where narratives are being forced down people's throats and people are submitting because some people think that, they don't want to be a black sheep, and so they don't want to be an outcast, and so courage and valor and these types of intrinsic virtues are not promoted, and sadly, in the modern world. But even with that, right, even with them interfering with everything and you practicing the path of Wu-Wei, if you understand the process of Tao, they're trying to accomplish big things overnight by forcing narratives and stuff down your throat. But what you understand from the Tao is that slowly over time, they will fail. That's the process, because it's an egocentric, self-interested, subjective perspective from individuals and a collective group of people. And so you see that type of mind virus going all around the world, where there's a hyper focus on telling people how to think and how to be. But you can't be swayed by that. I see a lot of people who follow Taoism who think that it has something to do with morality, and then you hear them talk about all of these silly activist ideas. Taoism has nothing to do with that. Do not bring the teachings of Taoism into disrepute. And so you need to understand that if you don't interfere with life, if you're one of those people, that things would just have a way of sort of working themselves out, because that's how the universe is. That's how the Tao is. And so that's how we need to manage our own life. Don't interfere with your own life. Follow the process. Follow it. You don't know what's going to happen. But as we were mentioning before, if you're sincere and you and you have a focus in your life, and all of these smaller things accumulate, great things come from this, because you're not forcing it on someone else. You're not telling them, hey, this is how it should be, this is how you should think, and so forth and so on. you're just the outcome of this Tao moving through you, these fundamental forces moving through you.
Yes, with this like narrative thing, and there like this new sense of ethics and morals and this and that, it can bother people who are even student of Taoism a very subtle way, and they kind of function as a kind of blind spot for a lot of people, because these media companies, they speak of these things very like persuasively, and they sugarcoat it and they make it sound so righteous, and that's the like a right way to think and things like that. And people without critical thinking and the deeper contemplation, people easily get persuaded by that way of thinking. So that that's a media company, so they must be right that this kind of thoughts come in. Right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, but if you are really sincere and genuine, authentic student of Taoism, that means you don't follow anything else but the way of nature. That's it. Like they say 10,000 different genders in the world, right? But look at nature. You look at plant life, animal life, even insect life. Is there?
And
Really?
so you need to question where those narratives are coming from.
Exactly.
Have critical thinking skills.
That's right. So you need to actually have a very strong conviction and a strong, firm ground of knowledge that are coming from the way of their way of nature. So you don't have to agree with them, although they, like you said, just shove in your throat, but you don't have to swallow. You can just spit it out.
Yeah.
It's your choice. And if without that strong conviction, not only just the being a sincere of Taoism, it's more so that in life in general, it's just going to be a pushover. Your life is just going to go whichever way that you don't intend to at all in the end. And you would think, oh, how'd all this happen to me? Well, because you never really trusted your fundamental knowledge of Taoism and the conviction of the law of nature, right? So again, gravity and orbits around the sun and the moon and this and that. Does that have any interference over? No, can we change that? Can we make it? You know, like a media company says, actually, sun is orbiting around the earth and this and that. Like, you know, you'll say, come on, man, like, right?
But that's what they would try to do.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's in principle, that's exactly the same thing.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
They say, oh, that's not the same. Yes, it is.
It is, yeah.
That's what they're trying to tell you.
Yeah.
They're just trying to, you know, make you this blind knowledge, no, empty knowledge. Not even knowledge, like a misinformation that just trying to make you to believe what they say. But, you know, like you said, you wait and you just observe from afar. Then, you know, it just slowly subside, and actually in the end it'll disappear. And then those people who spoke of those things very highly will act very differently, as if like when it happened, really, you know, because those people without any conviction, as we all know, like, oh, now this is the trend, I'm going to go this way, and that's the trend, I'm going to go that way.
You're a human, not a sheep.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, you need to have a strong conviction, and also you need to be willing to letting go a lot of things as well within yourself that you're, how the like a laziness in your mind, right? You get easily undisciplined. You need to be disciplined and letting go of your like attachment and greed, and also this desire to telling other people what to do and these sort of things, right? You need to let go of these feelings, and also the perpetual competition with others and the comparison and all these things, and it'll only interfere with where you want to go in life. So that you need to have a strong conviction, and you need to let go of yourself, actually.
If you have an urge to tell someone how to be and how to think, you have insecurity. That's a fact. That's an insecure response to the world. You're not allowing people to run their own course and live their own life, but you want to tell them how to think and how to be, and your thinking has been trained by, as you said, these larger corporations and media organizations and so forth and so on. So you need to have critical thinking skills and be cognizant of how you've been trained. Actually, why do I think like that? Why do I think like that? Would I have thought like that just 10 years ago? No, I wouldn't have. So what's changed between here and then? And so you need to ask yourself those type of questions. And when we look at the narratives and all of this and that that's shoved down our throat, these companies and corporations and think tanks, when they get together in these big organized groups, one of the main points within these groups is if they can get good, decent people to deny basic human truths, then you are easy to control. And so that's just a fact. And that's a fact that all of the activists and all the people who have succumbed to these narratives have to deal with, because that's what's actually spoken about in these big organizations and media companies and, you know, wealthy people. When they all get together and discuss these things, they speak about, if we can get good, decent, honest people to deny basic human truths, we can control them, and then you can implement a divide and conquer type of mentality, which we see around the world now with all of the insanity with politics and all of this dumb stuff that goes on, right? Which is completely anti-Taoist. And so if we look at that from our perspective, not much has changed from now to the time of Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu had to deal with his own insanity at the time in a Confucian society, right? Where Confucius was trying to shove this idiotic philosophy down people's throats. Women are binding their feet. Gentlemen are told to sleep a certain way or they wouldn't be in harmony with the Tao. There's all of these insane ideas, right? If you're going to sleep, just sleep, fart, do whatever you want when you sleep. It's your time to rest, you know. Yeah. There's no time to worry about if you're in harmony with the Tao. The Tao wants you just to sleep and sleep well. Yes. So that you can approach the next day with vigor. And so Lao Tzu had to deal with all of this insanity. And so he said, you know what? I'm not going to deny basic human truths. I'm not going to think that women need to have a foot that looks like a claw from being bound. I don't vibe with that, so I'm out. You guys can have it. And so the point there is that if you're a Taoist, that's kind of our starting spot, you know, like that's Lao Tzu's mentality, is that you are completely at odds with the established order of the world, so to speak. And so you need to think about your own life and think about how you've been controlled too, because Lao Tzu was dedicated to Wu Wei. His whole life was just about following the way of nature. So when he saw Confucianism infect the society with its ideology and people just blindly followed, and he's sitting around scratching his head going, how can people even believe this? And so he was like, I'm out. Like, I've got to go back and live in accord with the way of nature, and I've got to be true to myself as well. I can't continue to live this lie and stay in a society that is fundamentally sick, right? As Krishnamurti said, you know, there's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a fundamentally insane society. That's right. So that's the calling for all budding Taoists is, you know, are you succumbing to all of this narrative? Are you succumbing to all of this ideology and toxicity that's spread through the media and this and that? Or are you really dedicated to Wu Wei? Are you dedicated to the way of nature? Are you focusing on the small things in your life? Are you allowing people to be as they will? And are you allowing your own life to be as it will and accumulate the small things? And then if you're focused on too much other external things, right, all these distractions, your life's going to be completely chaos. And so, as you rightly pointed out before, it's where you focus. What detail are you focused on in your life? Are you focused on spirituality? Are you focused on Taoism? Or are you focused on all of these different YouTube videos that are out there, these political YouTube videos that YouTube keeps promoting to get people to be divided? It's easy to control, right? This is where the ad revenue comes from. Those who aren't savvy to the game, I mean, you got to become savvy to the game. That's what YouTube are doing. They're promoting all of this political content to try and agitate you, to get you annoyed, to go to the next video, It's all about ad revenue because their ad revenue has plummeted. Yes. So they need to prop up their business model because they don't prop up channels like mine because they've already had a statement to me that they don't like Eastern philosophy and spirituality. They would prefer division and
controversy
as opposed to peace and harmony. And so if you're one of those that have fallen for that, then you have to reorient your focus back towards spirituality, back towards the Tao, and back towards your own immediate life. Don't worry about what's going on in France or what's going on in Ghana. Focus on where you are.
That's right. And that, I would say, is a taking initiative for yourself and the humanity.
Yeah.
And that is a great responsibility we all carry within us, that not only just to help ourselves, help our own lives, but also to help the rest, because it always begins with an individual. There is no such thing as, again, biggest things starting from the smallest things, right?
Yep.
So if you want to change or save the world or humanity, where does it begin?
Exactly.
From the individual.
Save from yourself.
Exactly. That's how it begins. So it's not only for yourself, not just to make your life better. It also benefits others as well. That's how we can actually make change.
Yeah. And don't be afraid. Have courage. Have valor. Be someone who has integrity, who follows the Tao with integrity. If someone says, hey, you should do this, and you go, no, I'm just not going to do that, sorry. And they'll call you all sorts of names. There's all these names they call you now, right? A bigot, a racist, and to try and get you to acquiesce and to conform.
Or get some sort of reaction from you.
Yeah, and all you got to do is go, well, I'm not any of those terms. You likely are, because you're the one telling everyone else that they are, and it's usually the one that's telling everyone else that they are, that are the one.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to let you continue to do what you do, and I'm good. I don't have to follow. I'm not a sheep. I'm a human being. I'm one with the Tao, and I will not be pushed around by another human being. I'm connected to something much greater than everything that exists.
That's right.
So when you're connected to that thing that's greater than everything that exists, then there's nothing in this world that could blow you here and there, because you're at one with the Tao. And the only way to do that, as this chapter suggests, is by following Wu Wei sincerely and truthfully, and not veering off the course of the spiritual path in your own life.
That's right.
So guys, we hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next time.